Dragonflight is great, but it's not exciting. You know, I do feel that. I do feel it. Whether it's the storyline or just the amount of people that fell off in Shadowlands and could not be brought back by Dragonflight, I don't know what it is. And I'll even say, like, in terms of my stream or my YouTube channel, everything, I think more people were playing during Shadowlands, to be honest, because the numbers were just higher. Now, player retention, supposedly in Dragonflight, Blizzard said is way better. But how many people are you retaining? How many people came back? I guess the fall off must have been huge. But let's see what Bellular has to say about this.
It is fair to say that. So there's times where I describe it as like this: the content's good, the marketing.
Everyone was stuck at home for COVID. That is true. COVID did play a role in Shadowlands not completely falling off.
The impressions aren't there. As in, there's just not enough people on YouTube interested in Warcraft for the content to do as well as it did in the past. Even though we might get a good click-through rate and, good watch time and people like the video. And that just kind of, to me, is reflecting...
Yeah, I see that all the time.
A lack of an ability to... I guess the cultural weakness of Dragonflight, because it's been fairly... it's been, like, as a game, really good, in all these ways. But... it hasn't just been that, like, big, grand, kind of very fundamental, archetypical adventure that people have got hyped for in the way that Matt just talked about Death Knights.
Too smart. Too smart, too clever, trying too hard. I think that's ultimately the weird thing. Literally, you just need to, like... No, well, I can't say that.
They're trying too hard with Dragonflight? Is that what you're saying?
Find out what that is after stream.
Yeah, I never recommend doing something like that. But they should just be in a room and be dumb. Just be like, what's the dumbest shit that comes to your mind? What do you think is cool? Not what you think is good. Not what you think is interesting. Stop thinking. Just be like, cool thing. Like what do you see that actually elevates your heart rate? What do you see and go, oh my god, I'm so glad to be alive? What makes you feel like that? And if the answer is nothing, then you're problem. But like
Amberthal is emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, that's
the hell dropped onto the floor.
I don't know.
You guys are breaking their desk.
Final Fantasy, man.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's the thing, Akaria. They don't seem to understand cool largely, but they would. They would. They can.
Metzen does.
Yeah, they can and will. You can learn.
Yeah, we'll see if Metzen's influence plays a big enough role.
Has Metzen ever been the best at anything? I think no. And I don't mean that as a criticism.
Full on yoinked everything. Not a single thing in any of his work is original at all.
But
I'll be honest, like people do talk about Metzen as if he's like some kind of prophet. I think Metzen does a great job, and I'm happy he's back because I think he can bring the grittiness, the sweaty men back into WoW. I think he can do that. But in terms of like, I do feel like he's done a lot of like retconning on his own lore. His lore sometimes has been at times questionable, like it's not really fleshed out too well. Red shirt guy got him at one point. There are those things about how he's written the lore and how lore is gone. But I do think he can bring back, the war into Warcraft for sure. I think it's gone far too snowflakey and lovey-dovey, and now we're going to all be friends, and let's light the beacons and bring our dragon powers back while we all hold hands and use the power of friendship to beat a Ridicron. That's the way things have gone, and I don't think that's not Metzen, no. He's more hardcore. He's more about, oh, no. This is your war chief. He'll behead his enemies and hang their heads on the spikes in front of Orgrimmar, like that kind of shit. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I hope that stuff comes back.
Is he remixes it all into something that's cool. And I think the key insight that has allowed Metzen involved creations to do very well is through whatever the process is, it ends up with something that is easy to understand, larger than life, and exciting. That is what has been present through all Blizzard games whenever they've blown up good. All right, that's what, like Overwatch 2016. Bam.
Yeah, when it first came out,
Overwatch got big for the same reasons that WoW got big. Very different products, obviously, but all those kind of like core archetypical things that it hit
well
on
fleshed
that,
out, good storylines.
Fundamentally, like, are tickled by. It's like Dragonflight's moved away from that because it's kind of got bogged down in all these details and things where it's like, hey, those details would be really good, but we've got to get the big picture right first. And it's the big picture that is still, I don't want to say like in the past it was wrong. Now it's merely just not quite right.
Yeah.
To be clear, like,
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
of improvement. But we have not had epic moments that would
Yeah.
remind one of Legion.
Dude, 10.2 is not wrong. Like, the announcement of 10.2 and everything that's coming in it, and Emerald Dream and all that, that's, wow, that's good. But it's not great. It's not something that's going to pull anyone back. It's just another dungeon. It's another raid, another season. Like, I'm not saying I'm not excited to play it, but I kind of wish they would try to do something a little bit different. I don't know what. I'm not a dev. I wouldn't know what to suggest. But Dragonflight, maybe it's the story that I'm just not liking. But in general, I feel like Dragonflight's done a lot of good things, but nothing great. Nothing
Or
great.
the highlights
Maybe
of
Dragon Riding's great.
Pandaria,
That'd be the most
or the
thing I'd
highlights
say.
of Wrath of the Lich King. We haven't had moments like that in the game, in Dragonflight, and I think those are the moments that really, the community rallied around.
Just go and watch all of the cool bits of Warcraft 3 again. Like,
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
like think of the World of Draenor little cutscenes that happened.
Catering to a player
in-
base
in
that's
the
pretty much
quests.
hates
they
everything.
were like this is
They were
something
they all
It does
went
get a
pretty
lot of
hard. They were
unfair
pretty
hate. I
hyped.
will say that.
I was literally thinking
WoW
about
definitely gets a lot of
maybe
unfair
doing,
hate.
like a podcast or a bit of members content that is literally just Worlds of Draenor might have been one of the best expansions ever made. Sorry, it might be one of the best expansions ever made purely on the quest and content. Because
The
that shit-
opening quest line in WoD
so-
was amazing.
It's
There's-
so sad. If
was
only
amazing.
WoD could have had follow through. Man,
Yeah,
it's
it
the
just ran out of
most like
content.
tragic thing about it. But you think about like the Gunnar, like the Frostfire,
Yeah.
the Frostfire Ridge.
100%.
cuts.
I do remember going into WoD and going into Draenor, and doing the opening quest. I swear to God, I could almost quote myself and saying, "Damn, WoW is back. This is awesome." I was so I loved the opening for WoD, and I was so excited for the rest of the expansion. And I definitely think the thing that killed WoW had nothing to do with killed WoD. It had nothing to do with what they put into the game. It had to do with what they didn't put into the game. It was just a content drought like we've never seen before, and it just killed it. It strangled it, and it made everyone forget how good it was.
Seen
that was
the whole Dark Star
Sheer
one.
fun.
I was like, that was some goofy, cheesy shit, but it was cool.
Yeah, it was slightly too goofy, I think, but like the Dark
And
Star
WoD
stuff
was
where
definitely,
Val just
like,
walks into it and fixes the problem.
man's
Like,
expansion.
okay, cool. Maybe you could explain that a bit better, or maybe instead of him walking into it, he did a beam battle with it.
Oh,
But,
not a
like,
beam battle.
Oh, beam battles.
Come
cool.
on, you cannot find yourself on the side of the beam battle.
I have always been the side of beam battles. Always have been. Always will be.
Do you want to
As
have...
long as they're good, not like fucking Harry Potter where they were pointless. But any time when there's beam battles that makes sense, and it makes sense in Warcraft all
So
the
do
time.
you want a beam battle set against the backdrop of a large beam going into the sky?
No, I don't want that at all.
Peak modern content.
Sky beams are awful.
Sky beams are... Okay.
Too much like our sky beams.
So
are
you're okay for a horizontal beam, but a vertical beam, you don't fuck with that shit.
Unless the vertical beam is against someone who's pushing one
What?
down.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good. I'm glad we
No.
got the details worked
Yeah,
out.
and also beam battles are not just beam battles. Who's got the beam that wins? It's about the
Oh, and Dragon Ball
watching
Z
it as the representation of the fight in a way that's really easy to follow. Because the beam battle's not just who wins the beam battle. Beam battles, it's actually you want someone to win, and you watch them as they win. You watch them as they don't. It's basically a fucking progress bar, and you want to see it fill up the way you
that's
want it
true.
to fill up. So
Yeah.
when it doesn't fill up the way you want it to fill up, you feel that.
Is he talking
see
about
it,
the Farag versus
and it's
Viranoth
like
fight?
representative of everything that happens, and that's just like that's the kind of stuff that's really simple and really easy to understand, and because it's simple and easy to understand, you like it a lot. And I'm not against. I'm fairly pretentious. I actually like things that are complicated, but I definitely still like things that are just cool. Like I had a fucking moment today when I was watching, because I'd finished chapter 3 and did some chapter 4 of Armored Core 6, and I was going through. Lance McDonald had tweeted about the evolution of sound design from FromSoft, where there's a bit in Elden Ring where I can't remember the boss name, but it does a lightning strike, and since they changed from Fmod to WIs, they've had better like event stuff for their audio, and it was
Sure.
just this boss does lightning strike, the music pauses, you hear it reverbs. There's
That's
a
pretty
bit
cool.
in Armored Core 6. I can
Playing with the music along with the fight definitely brings some epicness to
it's
it.
from the chapter 3 boss.
I actually don't
where
think though boss fights
it's
are
you and a blood
are,
dudes. You have to
are a
disable
problem in
shield
Dragonflight.
while this thing.
I personally think Dragonflight's boss fights are an improvement on Shadowlands boss fights. Shadowlands had reached the peak capacity of what overcomplicating a fight to combat basically your top tier, raiders. That's essentially what Shadowlands was. I mean, you had Anduin who had like 30 one-shot mechanics. You had Halandris who was basically just so OP he was stopping raids as the fourth boss in the raid. And then you enter Dragonflight, which I feel like really we've been progressing real deep into those raids like the second the raid opens and then getting, AOTC fairly quick. Which is how I feel like it should be. I don't think a raid progression in Heroic should be a 10-month long thing, where they go finally get it right before the end of the season. No, that's what Mythic should be. Heroic has been good. I think it's been well balanced. Normal has been more like a walk-in and practice. LFR is really if you just want to kind of like, you got your lotion and you're ready to jerk off on the side while the raid carries you through. That's fine. You want to do that, you can do that. Normal has been a way to kind of learn the raid, and then Heroic is the real raid. And I feel like that's been done correctly in Dragonflight, whereas Shadowlands, it was just like the most epic hardcore, you gotta invest all of your time, say goodbye to your wife and kids if you want to raid in this expansion. And I feel like they stepped back from that, which is good, because that was ridiculous.
Over the rail cannon, so big railgun, charges and has to hit this thing. So you get every bit of perfect sound design you've ever heard, right?
Yeah.
Games should cater to the top 1%.
The music starts to dim.
Shouldn't.
This giant mechanical ice worm blasts out of the ice, out of the snow. You hear someone just counting up, and it's Rusty, who's a cool ass dude. And he's just counting up. He's like 85, 90, 95. The music pauses as soon as this thing bursts up. And the shot reverberates across this snowy tundra, and everything's paused, and you're just like, I felt that in my core. I felt that. And then obviously
I felt Razaket's breath many times.
Overcharges it, so he's counting 85, 90, 95, 100, 105, 110. He says 115. The communication starts to crackle from all the energy. So you literally, the comms start to go, and this massive shot with the delay, the shot goes through, and then the worm explodes a couple seconds later. And it's all just sound design. It's all just shot a big beam through a thing. But it was the pacing of it.
I actually feel like sound design wise,
set up the way you had your part to play in the fight. And that's the thing where if you had a raid boss, or maybe even a scenario boss or something, and it was some really big horrible evil, the worst villain, say it's almost an extension of the Chromie and Eridicron stuff. Where it was Chromie kind of did everything, and you were just sort of tickling away at Eridicron, you defended her and stuff like that, and killed dads. But a version that's like that, but you've got, I'm trying to think, say Khadgar, and if they can do it right, instead of cutting to a cutscene, if they can do it right, where Khadgar is screaming as he's getting closer to finishing his spell, maybe there's a network of spellcasters trying to finish the spell. Maybe you've got half the Council of Kirin Tor in this circle that you're defending, trying to bring down the equivalent of a magic nuke onto some horrible void creature that's appeared out of a portal in the sky, and you're just defending them while that happens, and you have this mad dash to do it, and you get the equivalent of the Legion stuff where the Vindicar was blasting giant beams. Just that, but you've defended this circle of mages while they're casting this world-ending spell that they need to cast. Just stuff like that with the right sound design, the right things like that. Teasing the trailer. That's the stuff that World of Warcraft needs. People go, this is good. I feel something again. Which is fundamentally it. Are you saying the cinematics need for visceral? Dragon Soul is a perfect example, because the Dragon Soul was technically what they were doing, and it sucked in execution, largely. Because it was
Dragon
you're
Soul,
defending
we just talked about it. That was the end raid for Cataclysm.
But it was a really boring fight. And it just
fighting
wasn't executed
tentacles.
well at all. And you're like,
Nothing good about that.
Down, sweet. But if you there's a good version of that where it feels super tense right at the last second. It's voice acted really well.
Yeah.
You're doing crazy stuff. The example of that is so good. So do I trust them to do it right? I don't know. But am I sitting here going, man, the things I
actually
would tell
don't
them
think
to do
rating is the
charge.
main issue in
Well,
World
I'm
of
glad
Warcraft.
that it's what we talked about last time.
If there is an
Matson's
issue.
back. Apparently, he's back in a larger way than people thought, and to me, all that seems good. It seems that what WoW was missing was strong creative direction. I think it had.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? I think it had.
And believe it or not, I think gameplay wise, I don't feel like World of Warcraft's in too bad of a place. Like, I still feel like it's the best MMO to play by far. Combat wise, still has the best systems by far. I think the raids are still good. I enjoy the raids a lot. I think they're fun. Even Mythic Plus, it has its issues here and there, but overall, I think the Mythic Plus system is fine. It does its job. Keeps content relevant, keeps dungeons relevant. I like the fact that they're bringing old dungeons back in. I'm still waiting for Scarlet Monastery to come back as a Mythic Plus. I hope they do that eventually. But I think the main problem, and maybe Blizzard didn't know how important this was, but it's the story. I feel like the story has gotten very far away from what Warcraft is and what people, loved about World of Warcraft. And part of it was the war. People, they have a lot of crafting in Dragonflight, that's for sure. They remade the entire crafting system. Kudos to them on that one. But there's no war. I don't know, there's no good end boss, end boss that you really like. I remember when Legion came out and Gul'dan exploded Varian. I swear, I was chilling with my buddy and we were watching it, and I looked at him and I go, I'm gonna fucking kill Gul'dan. Because I liked Varian. Personally, I was an Alliance player all the way through. I was like, I'm gonna fucking kill Gul'dan. I don't care what happens. I'm gearing out so hardcore. I am going to beat the fuck out of that guy. And that was something that was good, right? It was a storyline that enticed me to play. Like, I felt like I was playing towards something that entire time. I was going to avenge my fallen king. I was going to go kill Gul'dan. It was going to be cool. And I had a reason to play every day that I was gearing out. I was getting that much closer to killing him and avenging Varian and all that shit. What am I doing now? What am I doing now? I tickled the jailer's balls for an entire expansion. Didn't know what the hell he was doing half the time. Wasn't sure why I wanted to kill him or what was up. Sylvanas talking about breaking the chain. What the fuck did that even mean? Did we ever find out why Sylvanas wanted to break the chain? The cycle. I don't even know what that meant. Whatever the hell that was about. I had no understanding of why I was fighting the bosses I was fighting. We went into this entire new land where like these creators were creating shit. I didn't understand Sepulchre. I didn't understand any of it. I was fighting a giant crab robot, no fucking backstory behind him. Halandris was just there shooting orbs out that I had to block with my ass. I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing. I was just doing it to get gear. But that's not what you play. That's not what pulls you into WoW. The storylines pull you into WoW, right? That was what was great about it from the start. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to do for the Horde. Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, the true end boss is the mates we made along the way. Go, Malden. Yeah, getting sentimental. I definitely think they pulled away from, and that's why I think, with the return of Chris Metzen and everything, that we're going to get back to more storylines that motivate you to play, that give you a reason to want to do an end boss. That even people like Asmongold, he still plays. Like, whatever you say about him, he still loves the game. I promise you, he wants to see it be good. Look, people like Asmongold, if it's a good story, whether he's playing or not, he's gonna want to gear out and do the raid just to experience the content because he wants to kill that boss at the end. That's what you need. You need good motivation to kill a boss, and we haven't had that in a little while.
People who... This is the criticism I would put on WoW in what I would call the caretaker era, which is where people...
The caretaker
and it's
era?
challenging. Because the people who run WoW didn't create it, right? Ian joined in like 2007 or whatever.
That's true.
He's now game director and stuff like that. There wasn't as much Genesis. They're custodians, caretakers, maintainers, etc. And there's been like plenty of building and expanding, sure. Like you look at the lore especially. The lore has been made by people who want to make...
There was a lot of lore day in Shadowlands, but it wasn't good lore. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't understand it. I understood. Okay, there's the jailer. He's been wronged. He got imprisoned. He wants to break free, do some kind of shit to the world. But it wasn't that... His reasoning wasn't sound. I don't know. Did it make a lot of sense? He just wasn't somebody that I felt motivated to kill. I don't know. I just wasn't motivated to kill him. You want lore? Go play Baldur's Gate 3? What? No. No, 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 no. I want lore in my world, in my MMO. I want an MMO with good lore. And World of Warcraft was that for a long time.
Wowpedia pages with lots of stuff. But the thing is, the community does that, and the community would, follow.
I did help Thrall's mom.
in
Yeah,
the
that was
trails
great.
of whatever
That was
fucking lunatic shit Metzen was doing. But I think the point
But
was
Thrall's mom wasn't the end.
they were
boss.
taking these really big swings and filling in lots of the map and lots of lore, and lots of stuff was happening.
Did.
But it was always kind of like driven by these like just very big simple things. Whereas now with the lore,
I like it. You had your Ardenweald storyline. You had your you had your Vampire Boys storyline. You had your whole storyline with Arthas being, his soul thrown into the maw and all that shit. There were storylines there that I did play through, but none of them had me on the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen next? Oh, I got to do this next piece of content because I got to finish the story out. Oh my god, I got to kill this boss.
Let us lay waste
Right,
to
Co.
this realm.
Thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. Oh, I gotta gear out so I can kill this boss because he pissed me off when he did this thing, or I can't believe that person died when they died, or this. There was none of that. It was just like it always felt like we were playing all these smaller storylines that just didn't connect too well to the main villain storyline, and then the main villain storyline in general just seemed like he never really had a good one. They tried to attach him to the greatest storyline in the history of the game, and that was Wrath of the Lich King, with Arthas Menethil and the Lich King storyline and all that. And the attachment just degraded the original Lich King storyline. It just didn't feel good. And it felt like, okay, the jailer's the master planner. Is that what we're doing now? Okay, what's his plan? Never really figured it out. He just said what is to come while he was on his knees. And that was how it ended. Great. An anticlimactic finish to an anticlimactic story. Absolutely wonderful.
it just feels. Oh, it's hard.
Gotta gear up to make Sam's
really
right. Yeah, there's their
challenging to
motivation.
Find the words. I mean, I know you know what I mean.
I played Shadowlands.
Yeah,
I
think
did.
that's the
The
challenging part is
I'm
it's
just telling you
easy
what
to
I
know.
felt like the problem was
I mean,
with
it's hard
it.
to actually describe it and say it in a way that makes sense, as opposed to just do it
Besides
right.
the
It's
legendary
time.
system and that,
Just
that
properly.
was
It's like there's too
Torghast,
much
all that
getting
shit.
caught up in details and stuff.
It's exactly that. It is literally, it is trying to stick to the letter instead of. Well, it's weird.
I certainly haven't done that with the lore.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of awkward because it is just clearly just different tastes manifesting,
Yeah,
which is like the
it's like coming
difficult
in
part.
with different tastes or a different interpretation of the original medium, and then I guess running into creative struggles
Yeah,
from that point onward. And World of Warcraft has since Legion had creative struggles. I mean, no, it's had creative struggles for a long time. Anyone could look at the lore of TBC and think like,
oh, it's all a permanently retcon nightmare.
oh yeah, yeah.
Like every time you see them, you're
There's
like,
a lot
that
of
was just made up.
retconning.
That was made up. That was made up. Time they didn't
Yeah.
think of this. None of this was thought
Oh,
about.
they forgot this. Yeah. Yeah, I know. By the way, WoW not only has taken lore from a lot of other games. I mean, WoW has taken a lot of mechanics and game, and just overall gameplay from other games. But it's always done it a little bit better than everyone else. That was one great thing about WoW is I feel like they always took other people's ideas and made them a little bit better. Yeah, but they haven't been doing that lately. So it's a purely subjective opinion then? Yeah, of course. And maybe you liked Shadowlands lore. Maybe you did. But lore wasn't the only issue. To me, it was one of the issues with Shadowlands. The other one was, the Torghast system and the legendary system and grinding that shit out all the time. And for me personally, good lore will motivate me to do those things because I'll be like, yeah, I want to do that so I can do the other thing so I can kill the thing. But I never felt like a motivation to kill the jailer. So a lot of times I felt like I was just grinding out my next legendary to up my item level, and that was like to see my number go up. That was my only motivation. I want to see my number go up, which is much less motivating than saying, oh, I want to kill this guy named Gul'dan because he destroyed my king, obliterating his body, laughing while we left the broken shore after we came up with a bad game plan, and he fucked us up. I want revenge. That seems much more enticing than I want to take my item level from 124 to 125. Maybe not for everybody. It's just my You sound like a dirty Apple fan. No, no, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that is true. Apple definitely does that. They 100%. And I actually don't think that's a whole different subject. But yes, Apple does take other people's ideas and makes them a little bit better. That's true. But yeah, I don't think anything ever like was done in World of Warcraft that was mind blowing or innovative. I mean, even dragon riding supposedly was taken from Guild Wars 2. So they just took it and they made it a little bit better. Overwatch didn't do anything crazy. You know, payload, moving the payload and fucking abilities and, all that shit. There was nothing special, but they just did it a little bit better. Now, they didn't iterate on that. They never made a battle royale or anything like that, so it kind of died. But they've never been innovative in that sense. They've just always done things a little bit better than everyone else.
And now the problem is that it's being thought about more. And that's not manifesting correctly.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons, including production time and stuff like that. So it's like, it's given up one of World of Warcraft's biggest strengths to try and shore up one of its weaknesses. But in the creative realm, a lot of the time what you want to do is have one strength and it be your turbo strength and go, this needs to be the biggest strength of all time. Because if you lose that, you like don't have the ability to fight in that arena. It's like as soon as you start taking points out of strength and put them in the decks, then you're no longer wielding 2 dragon teeth and you're pointless. So I just completely I just defaulted to Dark Souls there, sorry.
Okay, I didn't know what the dragon teeth were.
What is he talking about?
Okay.
Havel's weapons. Havel's weapon, the dragon tooth. You do wield dragon teeth on a strength build, it's game over. As long as you land.
You can wield dragon teeth in that game?
There we have
That's
it.
pretty
Next
cool.
week will be interesting because there'll be a lot more concrete stuff to talk about. We'll be able to know like what the fate of all these different factions, like the Night Elves and stuff, are. So that'll be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You said, so it was Varian then? Was the last great expansion for you? No, it wasn't just about Varian. I actually, I guess what I'm just saying that, there was good motivation behind the villain. The villain's story made sense. Varian's death certainly was like a shaker, like oh my god, one of my favorite characters in the game just died, I gotta go avenge his death. Like, that was a cool thing. But along the way, the in-game mechanics were also great, right? Like the Legion Legendary system was good. Everything about that, the systems that were in Legion, I mean, Mythic Plus was introduced in Legion 2, and that was good. And, everything that I had to do to finally get to the point where I could kill Gul'dan was fun. It was fun to do. Obviously, game mechanics matter. It's not just the story. But you have to get both right, I feel like, to have a really good MMO expansion. You gotta have a good villain with a good storyline, with good motivation to get players to do things, and then the things those players have to do to eventually kill that villain also have to be good. It can't be one or the other. It has to be both. I actually thought the storyline in BFA had some of the best storytelling in the game we ever saw. We had fully rendered cutscenes for that shit. It was amazing. Really good storytelling. Got a bit touchy-feely in the end, but overall, like, I really liked Sourfang's story. I liked, watching Anduin grow up, even though I think he could have became a bit more Manduin at the end, but he didn't. But anyways, BFA's storyline was pretty good. But Azerite armor kind of shit on it. Like, the mechanics of Azerite armor, the stuff you had to do to get good in BFA wasn't that good. So it was almost like the opposite of Dragonflight. Good story, bad in-game mechanics, not that great of an expansion. Shadowlands, bad story and bad in-game mechanics meant really bad expansion. Dragonflight now, good in-game mechanics, not so good story, so just a meh expansion. But when you get both right, when both are like enthralling, when both are really good, you get like a Legion, where you got a really good storyline and really good in-game mechanics, and both complement each other, and that's a good expansion. That's like the best I can do in summarizing how I feel about WoW. I'm not saying Dragonflight's not good. I'm not. It is good. It's fun. I still play it every day. I just don't have that motivation to necessarily go and finish out the storyline. What's Iridikron doing? I don't know.